This is a special presentation of the Ticats Audio Network. Coverage of the Canadian Football Hall of Fame classes of 2020 and 2021 induction ceremonies.
Hello and welcome to a special edition podcast with the Ticats Audio Network. I'm Luke Tasker, and I have the privilege of being joined by two guests today. The first is my co-host for the show, the greatest special teams player to ever touch a football on either side of the border. It's my dad, Steve Tasker.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's good. Thanks for being here, and thanks for that. I'll put a little something extra in the will for you.
Thank you. Dad, this is cool. So today we get to bring on another really special guest, somebody who's well known in the football world on both sides of the border, and he is one of the most recent inductees into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, and that is former Bills head coach, former Montreal Alouettes head coach, Marv Levy. Well, Marv, thanks for coming on with us, and congratulations on your induction to the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. What was your reaction to getting the call?
Oh, I tell you, I was overwhelmed that it would happen. I didn't at the time know the president of the current president, the Montreal Alouettes, Mario Cecchini, but I think he's the man who maybe worked very hard on getting that to come to fruition. But I was overwhelmingly complimented to hear that. It's been a long time since I left there, and there were only 5 of my 47 coaching years there were in Montreal, but they remained very prominent in my memories. I really enjoyed them.
And you joined an elite list, Marv. There's only 3 people that are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. It's you, Bud Grant, and Warren Moon in both halls. That's got to make you feel really special.
Absolutely. I was aware of that. I did know Bud Grant well, competed against him in Canada, and then competed against him when I was the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was with the Vikings. I had high regard for him. Whatever I knew about Warren Moon also was very high. And Steve will remember that one when we had the great comeback game against the Oilers with Warren down there. But I'm overwhelmingly complimented to join those two in both Halls of Fame.
Yeah, that's a special group of men. And Dad, you played with Warren Moon also in Houston. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm connected to both you and Warren. Warren was a teammate of mine in my rookie season with the Houston Oilers, and then of course I played with you for over a decade. I was going to ask you a little bit about your Canadian football career, Marv. My son Luke played for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and I never saw this, but I heard stories about this place called Ivor Wynne Stadium. And it's one of those things where the locals seem to really love it, and nobody else did. Do you remember Ivor Wynne Stadium in Hamilton, Ontario?
Well, very, very faintly, Steve. What I really remember more than anything there is one of our Grey Cup championship games in Calgary, where it was about 20 below zero. And I wound up with frostbite that hasn't left me since. But
no kidding.
No, I remember going to Hamilton. I enjoyed the time there. But it was an in and out type of experience in most of those places. And I know that, Luke, you've played there with the Tiger Cats, and everybody there that I've heard from sure does have high esteem for you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Hamilton, Marv, is very much a Buffalo-like community in Canada, and they take and hold the Ticats dear to heart, very much so like Buffalo does for the Bills. And Ivor Wynne is now no longer standing, but Tim Hortons Field is the home of the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the home of the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, where your bust now sits for all football future to come. So that's very, very cool. My head coach for some of my seasons in Canada also was inducted alongside of you for the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, and that is Orlando Steinauer, who is the current head coach of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So, Marv, it was very special. I had my head coach and my dad's head coach in the same class for the Canadian Hall of Fame. Very cool.
Oh, it sure is, and I know that you're touched. And who did you say now is the current coach? I didn't quite get that one.
Yep, that's Orlando Steinauer, who did get inducted as a player to the Hall of Fame, and he is now a young head coach in his third year.
I see. Okay, well, that's very interesting. No, the
Yes.
history is great. Would take a lot of study to catch up on it. I know you're doing a lot of that
Yes.
with the role you're playing and did play before. So, boy, what an honor and joy it is for me to talk with the Taskers and to convey through you to those great fans in Canada my fondest memories of my days up there.
All right, Marv, last question for me. I don't want to take us down a rabbit hole or anything, but you were known as a special teams champion, and some of the things, I watched a lot of Canadian football when Luke was playing in Canada, and there are a ton of differences. It's a different game. There's no doubt about it. But there are a lot of similarities as well. And one of the things I would like to see, and I want you to get your take, is some of the special teams differences that there are in Canada. And I don't know if you can actually speak to it after so long, but some of the rules that they have in Canada are completely different than they are in the NFL. And I was wondering, how likely or how prevalent was it that you've seen the NFL adopt rules like that and change? And what would you like to see different about the NFL, if anything?
Well, I'd like to see the Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl. That's why. But no, the leagues are different. It really is the same things win. If you run, throw, block, tackle, catch, kick better than your opponent, you're going to win, whether it's the CFL or the NFL. Yes, the rules are different. I don't know, maybe some of the Canadian League rules have changed since when I was up there, but you could have men in motion towards the line of scrimmage, 12 people on a team. We used to have a 20-yard end zone then. The field had more than twice the square yardage of an NFL field. Again, there have probably been changes made about which I'm not really aware, but I remember that the athletic director up there, when I was first brought in, J.I. Albrecht, told me, Marv, you got 12 men on the team. I said, oh, okay, an extra receiver. And after the first game, he came back in the office, and I said, hey, J.I., you didn't tell me the other team could have 12 men also. But no, the rules are different, but they're interesting. Some of them are very exciting. They keep the game really going at high pitch.
Hey, Marv, I got to think that you came to Buffalo after your time in Kansas City, which came after your CFL years, and I've always been told your first game as a Buffalo Bill was also one other player's first game as a Buffalo Bill, and that was Steve Tasker. And I got to think Bill Polian and Marv Levy, both with CFL experience and putting an emphasis on special teams play, is there something about that attracted you to the young wide receiver special teams ace for the Houston Oilers?
Yeah, I'll tell you the story. I remember it well. I was hired in mid-season to take over as the head coach of the Buffalo Bills in 1986 mid-season, and I retained the members of the coaching staff. Mr. Wilson fired the head coach, Hank Bulla. I retained the members of his coaching staff through that year. One of them, golly, I can't remember his name. Steve would remember it.
It's Joe Faragelli.
Who?
Joe Faragelli.
Joe Faragelli. Thank you, Steve. Joe Faragelli, who had formerly been on the coaching staff with the Oilers when Steve was there. And the rules in the NFL at that time, if a player was placed on injured reserve, which Steve was with an injury, you could not just activate him off of it. You had to put him up for waivers. And if no one claimed him, you could, re-sign him or activate him. Well, the Oilers placed him on waivers apparently with this very strong intent of re-signing him. Whoever knew about a guy, he was a bit of a lower round draft choice, wasn't real big. And anyway, Joe Faragelli came and he said, Marv, I know your love of the special teams. I'm telling you, this is the guy you want to claim. And so we went down the hall, talked to our general manager, Bill Polian, said, okay, let's claim him. What the heck? Boy, was that a great move. I am always grateful to Faragelli to Polian, to Tasker, and to so many more.
Well, Marv, thanks so much for spending some time with us. Congratulations on induction into what I guess has got to be yet another Hall of Fame. This one, the CFL, one of only 3 people to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. Congratulations, and thanks so much for spending some time with us.
Well, thank you, Steve, and the day will come. I am certainly hopeful, and I believe it, that I've been campaigning hard, and Bill Polian too, and some others. You've been on the brink of induction into the NFL, Pro Football Hall of Fame, and that day should come. Anyway, thank you all, and thanks for your friendship, your ability, and so much more.
Thanks, Marv.
Thanks, Marv.
The Canadian Football Hall of Fame induction weekend coverage on the Ticats Audio Network.